right? It's in the news, and it has been for a few years now. Just rapid expansion, rapid growth. And we were recovering from the Great Recession, where the construction industry, building industry, a lot of those things were just hit, just devastated, right? And you formed this company kind of near the bottom of the cycle and have launched it and are growing now. So tell us about it. What I really want to see, what I want people to see is the dynamics of how much you've grown in the last few years. Where'd you start a few years ago?
So, as you know, but I'll kind of elaborate, I've been in construction for now well over 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I used to work for a Southern California company based here in Irvine as well for a number of years, and then decided to start my own company just over 2 years ago. And when we got started, the market was just kind of recovering from all this federal spending on highway improvements and seismic improvements.
Or the lack of spending.
Correct.
And now it's going on.
So
its
they're
way
filling in for the gaps of many years. And
a lot of deferred maintenance.
correct,
So to speak.
correct.
Right?
And
Okay.
actually, a lot of the work we're doing is bridge deck maintenance and seismic improvements in case of the next earthquake. You know that things are
Okay.
built properly. So, you know, as I was mentioning to you earlier, you know, we started the company with myself and a couple other employees that I had known from the industry. And within 6 months, we were up to maybe around like 10 employees, picking up different types of jobs. And just, you know, last month we hit over 110 employees. So we've kind of taken on a full spectrum, not to give the pun of the company's name, but we do from building work to as well as engineering, as roadways, bridges. We're focusing a lot on schools and full scale commercial developments.
Yeah, and I want to stress, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm correct on this one, is that this isn't just something you're making up as you go. You have many years experience previously working for other fairly large size builders, design building operations, and you were at a higher level, right? And so you had many years experience and a lot of background in this. And it's just the fact that you were in, you know, you started it and you're doing it right, and you know what you're doing, that it's gone from like 10 people to 110 people in a couple of years.
Correct. So, you know, I got to learn from one of the best in the industry and kind of walked me through the big and the small and the, you know, non-important and super important, and really got to learn the full details of what a contractor needs to kind of entail in their business model. And that really helped me to kind of venture out on my own. Otherwise, it would have been extremely challenging. So I had a good 8 years of tutelage under someone who really took me under their wings and gave me a nice training for those 8 years.
That's awesome. And then you took it and you launched it and you're doing great things with it. Okay, so Spectrum, and you mentioned it already, a wide variety of projects and things. Can you give me, I mean, more than just like a name? Give me in depth. I mean, it's Southern California mostly or all?
So we've been doing, our Southern California, we focus our building projects in Southern California. However, our engineering works, let's say for the California Department of Transportation, Caltrans, we'll do work all over the state. So we've gone up to San Francisco, Monterey, Fresno. We currently have a job in Bishop. To give you an idea, as well as far south as San Diego.
So basically the whole state almost.
The whole state. You know,
Yeah.
we kind of won't go north of the Bay Area or Sacramento just because it becomes far and few in between. But
Well, also, yeah, it's a little less populated up there, less work, but also it's more than a day's travel to access it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So right now with the ecosystem we like to have between our suppliers and subcontractors and those who we know, so we can actually perform and deliver.
Okay, and so you're doing some Caltrans work. You're doing other kind. You're doing private building,
Correct.
Development. Give me some projects. If you can say names, say names. If you don't want to, if you want to just keep it generic, let's just talk in generic terms. But let me know.
We're building a middle school in Irvine. It's
Okay.
called the New Horizon Upper Campus. It's a private middle school that's being built. It's a 60,000 square foot building on a 4-acre site, completely new construction, ground up. We've built and we continue. We're working on 2 more. Called their learning experience. They're preschools around 10,000 square feet on 2-acre lots, also new construction.
Wonderful.
So these are coming up. A lot of them are coming up, especially the daycare industry here in
Is it really?
Southern California is booming,
Wow.
which is great for us. As well as, we're building a shopping mall in Stanton, the city of Stanton,
Okay.
which includes, gas station, food service places like Wendy's, and commercial shopping tenant improvement tilt-ups.
So hence the need for more than 100 people. You got all
Correct.
these different things going statewide, and you got some pretty decent-sized projects here, and just locally even.
And one thing that kind of sets us apart from most general contractors is lots of general contractors will subcontract a lot of their work, while we self-perform a great deal of our work. So we
That's
do a
good
lot
to
of the work in-house. So that's why also we have had a nice growth, but there's also involved equipment.
Okay, that's great. And you know what? You just led me into where I want to take the show. Okay, so what I want to do is take a quick break, and I want to talk about what you're doing in-house and how you're managing your people. Obviously, that's why you're here. That's what I talk about. That's what our viewers and our listeners and I want to learn about. So let's dig in. Give it a second. We'll take a break, and we'll be right back.
Great.
Robert J. Curtis is the founder and CEO of Alpha Quantix, a premier provider of employee analytics and metrics that helps CEOs and managers of middle-market companies hire the best, manage the best, and be the best. Robert is a keynote speaker, presenter, moderator, and panel member who regularly appears at conferences, business events, and association meetings nationwide. His presentations provide powerful information that gives CEOs and managers of middle-market companies valuable insights to improve their hiring and engagement skills. If you'd like Robert to make a personal appearance, he can be contacted by visiting his show's website, bestcompanyshow.com, or by emailing Robert at info@bestcompanyshow.com.
And welcome back to Best Company Show. I am your host, Robert J. Curtis, with the Best Company Show and Alpha Quantix, which is the sponsor of the show, which is my company, and I work with a lot. And speaking of that, if you'd like to get in touch with us here at the Best Company Show or find out and learn more, you can go to bestcompanyshow.com. There's information on past guests, including podcasts and videos. There's also information on future upcoming guests and also future and upcoming events. And so check us out there. If you want to reach out to me individually and maybe even with suggestions for the show, suggestions for guests, you can reach out. The best way to reach me is probably at info@bestcompanyshow.com, and I'd love to hear from you. And while I've got him here on the line, we're talking with Bisher Aljazzar from Spectrum Construction Group. And he's sharing with us some of his, the inner workings of his business. We're going to dig in and find out more about managing a construction company that is growing rapidly. Spectrum Construction Group and you, how do we reach you?
As simple as an email to one of the ones that can kind of get to everybody is projects@spectrumcgi.com, or giving us a call at 949-299-1400.
Awesome, wonderful. Okay, so let's dig in and talk about the management of people in the construction business. One thing you've mentioned before is that you actually you don't subcontract, you subcontract out less work than maybe your average contractor, GC, would do, general contractor. And which means that you're doing a lot more in-house and you have a lot more responsibility and you have a lot more people.
Correct.
First off, what kind of things do you keep in-house? What are you doing?
So we do everything from earthwork to concrete, framing, drywall, plaster, electrical, plumbing. Pretty much the things we give away are the roofing, air conditioning system, landscaping, and glazing and windows, storefronts, things of that nature.
Okay, so kind of finished work.
Correct.
And things that are near finish, I suppose, if there's
highly specialized items that you want to give it to the guys.
Okay, but you do more of the things that other GCs, general contractors, would just hand out.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
My experience, actually, and I don't have that much experience. My experience is it's a lot of the moving the dirt, and maybe doing the concrete and foundational work, and that's it. And then everything else is subs. But you're going way beyond that.
Correct.
Okay, so you have all of these different people in house, and on working on different projects and different days and different times and everything else. You're doing government work, so you probably have some union people coming and going.
We are union signatory, so a majority of our employees are union.
Okay, so you have that factor and that dynamic to deal with. It can't be, and we mentioned before, or I want to mention, grew from 10 people to over 110, 110-ish right now in 2 years. Come on, there's got to be issues there.
Oh, of course. We've had some growing pains.
Okay, tell me. Let's dig in. I want to know. I don't want to know the rosy side of things. I could get guests in here all day long and talk about how wonderful business is. But what I want to talk about, what I want to learn about, and what I think the listeners and viewers want to learn about is, hey, what are the things you struggle with? What are the issues you need to deal with? And let's talk about ultimately how to deal with them. Okay?
Sure. So to kind of give you an idea, when the company started off, like I mentioned, it was just myself and a couple employees. So kind of everything was funneling through myself.
Okay.
And one of the big challenges as we were growing is to kind of delegate and have things more automated through our different departments, from accounting to estimating to project management in the field. So really kind of we had to sit, and it took around 2 to 3 months to really restructure how information flows through the company and how approvals and things of that nature kind of can be expedited, rather than myself becoming the bottleneck in the whole process.
Which probably, in my experience from being an entrepreneur of my own, having my own businesses, and also seeing a lot of people and talking to a lot of people, that's one of the major hurdles that most people encounter right off the bat. Because you're expanding rapidly, you're not ready or situated yet to kind of delegate like you should be, right? And so you went through the same thing a lot of people do.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And so that was the first thing. And that was 3 to 6 months out when you were getting going, right?
Correct.
What'd you do? How'd you get past that bottleneck?
We really had to bring on good people. That was the main thing, is we were finding good candidates, people that I either had worked with in the past that I could build some trust with, or some people that we were bringing on new that we kind of gave them the autonomy to really grow in their positions. And they really kind of helped take on my system, if you want to call it that, and make it their own, but ensuring the compliance and coordination that we had previously.
Okay, so it really, and probably what helped with that was your experience and prior knowledge and contacts with people who, at least enough of the people who could kind of carry it for you.
Correct.
And some of the new people that you weren't so familiar with were, there was few enough that they weren't overwhelming, and they didn't, create too many issues.
Correct.
Did you have, other than that, I mean, that sounds like you managed it well, although it was challenging. Can you think of anything that was a particular thing about that? Was there hiring issues? Were there not having the right person in the right place? Things like that?
We just had, we hired on an individual that I actually knew for a number of years, who had kind of taken on a more junior role, gave them maybe a little bit more of a responsibility than they were typically used to. And that was just a very challenging process, because they really didn't perform. They did it. They did what they wanted. They did their best and really gave it their all, but just something that they weren't really up to. So we kind of had to kind of regroup and think about
dial it back,
and really kind of think how we could structure. Let's say the leader on the job and those that are still kind of learning or need some work to get to a fully autonomous superintendent or manager.
Okay, were you, and especially your people, were you guys flexible enough that, just taking a step back and regrouping and then launching again, were you all flexible enough that you could actually successfully do that? Because, if you think about it, a lot of times there's egos involved.
Of course.
And there's
especially in construction.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, there's egos involved. There's reputations. There's prior experience. There's considered seniority kind of considerations of, I've been here, longer than you, or I've been doing this longer than you. I should know. And so all of those issues come into play, especially when you're regrouping and you're kind of reassigning stuff. Was it challenging to manage that, or do you have a knack for doing that, or how did that work out?
That was very challenging. It did, in the particular situation that I'm talking about, it did affect the project. We had to, kind of put us a little bit behind schedule. We were able to mitigate that and regroup and finish the job on time, but it kind of did rattle our structure on that project. So that's something we really, put a lot of stress on, getting the right individuals in the right positions, and those that are wanting to move towards those positions, really kind of setting up a game plan of how they can get there, rather than just kind of giving them the keys to a car before they get their license and letting them drive.
So it was more of you kind of decided that we'll take baby steps, or take, incremental steps to get there and test the water first and work our way through it. But you have to do that fairly quickly. I mean, come on, in 2 years you've grown 1,000%.
Correct. One thing that's been really helpful is I have a few employees that kind of assist me in doing so, that kind of run the field. One of them is our general superintendent. He's just stellar at what he does, and really goes above and beyond what's required. And he really kind of has helped me in the training of, let's say, the up and coming managers and superintendents to kind of give us the smell test, before we give them on to their own project on their own.
Wonderful. That's good. It's great. I mean, obviously, it sounds like that was somebody you knew before, or you quickly gained trust in, and because you have that trust, and because they've been able to deliver in the past, they've proven themselves essentially. Then you really trust and rely on them, and that helps out a lot. Okay, so now you mentioned something a minute ago, which I want to dig into real quick. This is egos in the construction industry. That's one of the things in business that we all have to deal with, and personal life too. But we're talking business right now, so let's talk business. The ego issue. What issues, specific types of things have you had to deal with in that? I mean, give me some examples, maybe as much concrete as you can. Concrete.
Sure. There's several situations where you put on, different people together. We have kind of two management structures on each project. So you have pretty much the project manager, who can sometimes be in the field or in the office, that kind of takes care of all the paperwork and deals directly with the owner on a lot of the details of the project. Then we have a superintendent that will actually manage the project. They manage the subcontractors, our own employees. They're actually the ones running the construction of the project. Okay. And doing the technical work on a day in, day out basis. So lots of times you can have egos between these two individuals because they're both leaders and managers of the project in their own right, but you kind of have to really define the scope of what each person is responsible for, and at the end of the day, who you're going to hold accountable for each aspect of the project. And initially, as we were growing, we didn't really define that, and we just put them together and said, "Hey, go! You guys can both run this job." And and we were having a lot of issues where person X thought person Y was the one doing it, and vice versa.
Or they were used to taking that role, and now they weren't sure, or they took the role and they shouldn't have because the other guy was in there too, and so
Correct.
The egos were clashing.
Exactly.
Okay, so it sounds like you kind of described the way you dealt with it by giving the answer to what the problem was, right? And it sounds like the way you dealt with it, part of the way you're dealing with it is by clearly defining those roles and responsibilities and everything.
Yes.
Do egos get hurt in the process of doing that?
Of course, but I think the clarity and the initial, let's say, surprise or upsetting of that the individual kind of will be overcome, and just how smooth. And the idea is to really give only those the responsibility they should be taking on. Giving them more than that will not really set them up for success either.
Okay. And I guess that's part of the discussion. Now, that kind of a discussion in that environment, you basically have the 2, 3, or 4 people all in the room at the same time, and you're, all in front of everybody, just laying it out. Is there give and take? Or is it really, now, you're calling the shots, or your supervisor that you mentioned before, he just goes in and he says, "I'm calling the shots. This is the way I see it, and I want this, that, and the other." Or is there some give and take? How does that work?
There's always give and take.
Okay.
I worked in an environment previously where it was the word of the business owner or the highway. Take his way or the highway, and that really doesn't work over time. I'm not on every job site every day, and similarly, we have people working across different projects. So we value the kind of input from those that are dealing with the challenges day to day in the field. So there's always a give and take.
Okay. Now, here's what I want to dig into, and maybe you have some thoughts on this, because I think we can go deeper on this. And what I really like to do with guests is get into kind of a deep, kind of find a nugget in there, something you do that's different than other people. And it sounds like maybe within this topic you're dealing, or maybe something related to it, you're dealing with some things, because your approach is very open-minded and progressive. Well, not in the liberal sense, not in the political sense, but progressive in the sense of, hey, I want to be open and I want to deal with this in a kind of an open management style. Kind of, I suppose. What I'm wondering is, are there things that you do or practices you do that, and maybe not on a job by job, maybe on an annual basis or some other kind of a routine, things that you do to enhance or make this environment better, to make this kind of way, management style make it work? What is the management? Do you have a name for it?
So we do something, we're not so technical in our management style, but one thing we've implemented, which is kind of based off of Stephen Covey's teachings that I used to work for Franklin Covey back in my time.
Okay.
My first job, actually, and learned some great information there. And one of the insights that I took away from there that we've really implemented at Spectrum is we have something called a win-win agreement.
Oh.
So every 6 months, I sit down with every employee that has anybody that reports under them, or any key employee that's been with us for a period of time, and we pretty much lay out the company's expectations of what that employee is to kind of deliver for us in the next 6 months, and also what they're expecting of the company to deliver to them. So this is where we kind of ensure that their development is taking place, as well as the company is receiving, is getting what they're hiring the individual.
So let me say, this is an annual kind of thing?
We do this every 6 months.
Oh, every 6 months. Okay, so every 6 months, we're going to sit down at a table, and you're going to say, this is what we need you to do for the next 6 months. And that's pretty clear. A lot of companies do that, and whether it's annual or 6 months or quarterly or whatever, right? You're going to lay down, these are the expectations, let's be clear about it, and that's good business practice. What's interesting, and what makes it special, is that you're now turning your tables and saying, okay, what do you want from us?
Correct.
And is there a limit? Is there some kind of, and what do people ask for? What do you ask? What kind of things do people think of?
So we've had people wanting different certifications, or they want to take a certain course, or I'll give you an example. We had a civil engineer who was really good at running the technical aspect of a project, not the most people-friendly person, doesn't know how to really manage people, especially. He was used to projects that had 5 or 6 employees on the job. We had like around 30 on this job. So it was really a challenge for him. So he wanted to take, a course on how to manage people and how to be a leader rather than just, a boss. And
so you just work that into the negotiation, or what the deal, which is, okay, you deliver on these things, we'll deliver on our end of the deal.
So we both kind of deliver on these, and then this kind of ties into their performance evaluation. We're not just asking them that here's your role and responsibility. We're really saying, for you to get to the next level, where do you see yourself with the company? You're looking to grow. Here's what we're expecting from you to be able to grow into that position. This is what we want to see.
I really like that, and it's really special. It's something unique. I haven't heard that before on the show. I hear things similar, but not in that direct kind of placement. I know it's from a book, and it's from a lot of people. Probably a lot of people out there using it, just that they haven't come across my desk.
Sure.
And I love hearing that. Okay, so listen to that. I want to go into take a break right now, and then we'll come back and we'll do our hot seat question. And I'm going to throw something at you, and I'm going to see if I can throw something at you kind of related to that, that's in the news lately, so we can talk about. So let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Robert J. Curtis is the founder and CEO of Alpha Quantix, a premier provider of employee analytics and metrics that helps CEOs and managers of middle-market companies hire the best, manage the best, and be the best. Robert is a keynote speaker, presenter, moderator, and panel member who regularly appears at conferences, business events, and association meetings nationwide. His presentations provide powerful information that gives CEOs and managers of middle-market companies valuable insights to improve their hiring and engagement skills. If you'd like Robert to make a personal appearance, he can be contacted by visiting his show's website, bestcompanyshow.com, or by emailing Robert at info@bestcompanyshow.com.
Welcome back. I am your to the Best Company Show. I am your host, Robert J. Curtis, and we're back here with Bisher Aljazzar of the Spectrum Construction Group, and we've been talking about various issues, including the fact that they have some management practices that are kind of, let's put it progressive-looking, forward-looking, about how they manage their people and how they're really, kind of just simply straight up asking people every 6 months, what are those people looking for out of the company, in addition to, of course, regular salary and compensation, benefits, things like that, in exchange for what the company is looking for out of them. And I love that, the win-win proposition. Yes. Okay, now, this kind of ties into it, the hot seat question, and I'm going to be kind of delicate about how I ask this because it can be taken the wrong way. But there is a certain, let's put it, negotiating style that certain people that are in the news regularly engage in. Lately, there's been a lot of this talk, and it's kind of the go full bore, demand everything, make big threats, talk big, and push your weight around. and start your negotiation strategy from a position of quote unquote strength, which is a tough guy position. And that's one way to look at things, right? And it's been in the news a lot. Certain politicians and other people that's their style, and everybody around them is getting used to that, and they're adjusting to that. But it has fallout, right? It has a particular kind of angle about it, and it creates a particular environment. What's interesting about what you've mentioned here is you're kind of on, let's put it, the soft side of things. And I don't mean that you're soft. I imagine you're an astute negotiator. You're a good businessman. You've done well over the years, and you're doing great things right now. But wouldn't somebody like that just kind of just tear you apart and say, "Look, we're gonna come in and bluster our way through everything. We're gonna just barrel through, and we're gonna bully everybody around and throw our weight around, and we're gonna take advantage of you." And couldn't that happen? And doesn't that happen to you? Because if you take this position, that's what you're putting yourself in this position.
Sure. So there's this is something, we're constantly having to negotiate contracts with project owners, subcontractors, kind of presenting our position on a project, what's caused the project, let's say, to be delayed, or there might be a major cost increase because something that was missed in the design, or something that is that the owner now wants that they didn't initially want, and things of this nature. We're very firm and to the point. I mean, I don't I don't take the approach of just barreling through a scenario, but we are very clear, and we make sure that everybody is very well aware of the situation that we're about to get into.
Okay, so let's make it a little more specific, and I want to make it more of a hypothetical. What is your comeback in a scenario where somebody comes into you like this, where they are throwing their weight? And I'm not talking just about your employees. Win-win is where we started with this, and dealing with your employees. But it could be in a negotiating contract, or dealing with a subcontractor who didn't perform well, or whatever, or timely, or whatever it might be. Right? In those contexts, how do you deal? How do you take on? First off, do you go in with the full-on bluster and throw my weight around because I'm the general kind of attitude? And then, if you don't do that, how do you respond to other people?
So that attitude or that strategy is mainly, that's kind of a last resort if we're dealing with, let's say, somebody who's not giving any sort of regard to the circumstance of the project where things are at, or the circumstance with the employee, if we want to use that as an example as well. The way, we're very clear from the outset. That's where we really, I would say, is our strong suit. I write, our contracts with our subs or with our owners or even with our employees. We from the get-go, especially now with, the number of employees we have that we were discussing, we make it, crystal clear as to what the expectations are, what their role is, what their responsibility is. With a subcontractor, the same thing. We define exactly their scope, their schedule. So if they do come in with this kind of strategy that they are wanting to, be very attacking in their, in their negotiating strategy, we have, the documentation and we on our side, and this is where we really make sure everything is.
In other words, you honor a deal, you stay by the deal, and you make sure that it's reasonable and rationally enforced. You live by the consequences of what the deal was and all of that, and it doesn't matter whether it's contractor, general contractor, subcontractor relationship, whether it's an owner, general, or whether it's an employee to you.
Sure.
It's basically go by, play ball by the rules.
Correct.
And try to enforce the rules and do good. And, that's a great philosophy, a great way to do business. And to be perfectly honest, I think it's part of what's making you great and why you're succeeding really well. And I'm glad we had you as a guest. We could learn more about you. And I thank you so much for being a guest. You've been a great guest.
Thank you for having me.
And just one last time, if people want to reach you, where are they going to find you?
Projects at spectrumcgi.com, or our website, which is www.spectrumcgi.com, or our general phone line, which is 949-299-1400.
Okay, awesome. And thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. And you know where to reach us, which is bestcompanyshow.com, or email us at info@bestcompanyshow.com. And you can listen to us at iTunes or Stitcher. You can also, and other places too. You can also take a look at us at YouTube on our YouTube channel, and we'd love to hear from you and get feedback and everything. We love the comments and everything. Thank you so much, Bisher. I want to thank real quick my engineer Paul Robertson for being the engineer, and he takes care of us very well. I also want to thank Roland Canamore, producer of Silver Dream Factory, a little independent movie studio here in Anaheim, and he helps us a lot, especially when we're on the road and doing interviews and location. Thank you everybody for watching and listening, and until we meet again, until the next episode, I wish you all the best and success in managing your business, and that you become the best companies possible.
You've been listening to The Best Company Show, Southern California's business podcast, focusing on topics of interest to CEOs and managers of middle market companies, with your host, Robert J. Curtis.